Pattern predictions on a Monday here at the 1 Degree Outside Weather Network, looking out to the next 2 weeks. Not the numbers. You get that out of our app, and you can find the daily forecast out to 14 days anywhere in the country or even internationally just by searching on the App Store and Google Play. 5 stars, totally free. Search the number 1 Degree Outside Weather, and you'll find it. I talk about the 500 millibar heights from time to time. It's basically the average temperature through a deep column of the atmosphere. We are in the height of the heat right now. Actually, what's interesting is the deeper cold air has retreated not only out of Canada, it's gone to the other side of the northern hemisphere for the time being. This tells you there's not a lot that's pushing back against the heat. Now, it will break down, and we do get some cooler air at the end of this week that comes in. And in general, this is the hottest the next 2 weeks are going to be. We saw this coming in pattern predictions together, didn't we, over the last couple of weeks and in the monthly forecast at the start of June. So now we look and say, well, what's coming next? Well, getting into next week, there is a dip that shows up here where you get some cooler air that tries to come in. When you get right on the battle zone of cool and warm, your jet stream's in the middle, so this is going to feed in disturbances, all right? But at the same time, you're still warmer than normal. You might get a couple of days that dip below later this week, and you might do that again briefly next week. But in general, you've got warm, kind of average atmospheric layer that's in place because that deep cold has retreated to the other side of the hemisphere. So what that means is plan overall on a warmer than normal pattern, even though you shouldn't plan on this kind of intense record heat lasting all the way through, right? So if we look and we go through the period at surface temperature, you can see by the end of this week, there's some of the cooler air that comes into New England. A lot of the country still into the warmth, although not as hot as it is here at the start of this week. And even as we go out farther on through the period, we go out in the next week, for example. Yes, there's warmth to be had for everybody. We get a little bit of a surge that may come up in our direction again for us here over the course of the week. But I think what we're talking about overall is the fact that never after the next day or two do you get the same kind of heat coming back in the next 2 week period. It does start to build by the end of the 2 week period on July 7th and 8th. You can see a lot of the country is warm to hot, but not as intense as it is right now across the east. So when you look at the forecast high temperatures, that's why, yep, there's that dip I was telling you about for the end of the week. And by the way, you can follow in our Insight videos every day about the kind of nitty gritty of the meteorology behind the forecast. But once we get through that little spell, again, next week, don't plan on it being cooler than normal, even if there's a little dip in the jet stream or trough that develops over us here. You're not going to see a real impact on the overnight low temperatures either. I don't think they're going to find that being much below normal. It'll be very close to normal overall. What you will see is at least an increased propensity to get some showers and thunderstorms to come through, because if you do get that little dip in the jet stream that kind of settles over us, you get that clash of cool and warm air, you drive up the chance of getting showers and thunder. And that's why when you look at the overall precipitation forecast and percentage, you can see later this week, it's driven up. And then again, as we get to next week, got a couple of periods here that it gets driven up, and it makes sense. What you're going to look for in that period going out to next week is you're going to look to see where you start to see the focusing of the higher percentage chance of precipitation, because that's generally all about timing of the disturbances as they race through that kind of clash of cool and warm air. So that's what you're going to look for, is where they're going to gravitate to which days in there. But again, as you saw there, looks like probably earlier in the week, and then again, maybe toward the end of the 2 week period. If you love this stuff, you may love one of our membership tiers, membership.onedegreeoutside.com. That's the way things look for now. We'll look forward to seeing you always at onedegreeoutside.com and atop the home screen of the app.